Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Baby Child and Co. once again. It's always a pleasure to have you. Today, we are talking about your child eating right in 2023. We've begun a new year, and it's very important that we put certain things right so that our children can do well in whatever they do, being children, that is playing, running around, schoolwork, helping with chores. It's very important that they are children, and food, as our guest will explain, will help them to do all those things the way they should do it. Our guest has been with us on so many occasions talking about what she does, which is food, because she's a registered dietitian nutritionist. She's Mrs. Pearl Salome, and we are very happy to have her once again to talk to us about our children eating right in 2023. If you have just joined us, thank you so much. Please share to your wall, share to your tag your friends so that they can also be part of this. And then if you have questions, put them in the comment section, and that will help us to talk to you more about the things that we wanted to or we want to discuss with you. So we will start right away talking about your child eating right in 2023. Pearl, what do you consider to be eating right?
Thank you. Good afternoon once again. And I'm happy to be here to share a bit of insight on nutrition among growing children. What parents should be paying attention when it comes to our children's nutritional needs. Well, I think it's a very important topic, and it's right that we start the year of paying attention to this because our children are our future leaders. This is the foundation we are giving them, and if we want them to take up the responsibilities we are bearing now and do it right, then we have to give them a very good foundation. So, back to your question, when we talk about eating right, or when we say a child is eating right, it means that whatever nutrients the child is getting in their food is able to provide essential. Basically, the food is providing the nutrients that the body requires for the growth of the child at that stage. Children growing at every stage require different nutrients. And so, if your child is currently 5 years, the kind of nutrients the body requires at that stage is different from when they get to their 10th birthday, when they get to their 12th, and then it goes on like that. So, we say a child is eating right when every nutrient that their body requires at that stage is being provided for from the food they are eating. We know that we have different food groups, so we are expecting that whenever your child is eating on the plate, the various nutrients should appear on the plate of the child. And this can be done in a very simple and smart way to achieve the desired
Show
results.
us what you are trying to tell us with the plate.
Yeah. Okay, so give me an age. An age,
Uh, 10 months.
3 months,
10.
10 months. Okay. So a child who is 10 months old. Now, one thing that I would like our viewers or listeners to also note is that at every stage that the child gets to, the amount of food that they can take at a time differs. A lot of times, what we realize is that parents have so much expectation, and so they end up either overfeeding them, and then they end up throwing out everything because their stomach capacity at that point is not able to bear. So I have here, I don't know if you can see well, but I have here different cups.
We can see.
Okay. So the mauve cup is 250 mils cup.
Okay.
Yeah, followed by 125. Just trying to let us know that when it comes to feeding them, the quantity of food you have to give at a time differs.
Okay.
So for our 9 months old baby, I don't know if this is clear enough. I'm not sure.
Well, I can see.
You can see they
Yes.
may be able to see. So for a 9 month old baby, we are talking about half of this cup. That's 250 mils at a feed.
Okay.
So that's about, say, this amount, half of this,
Okay. Okay.
right? If you are feeding the baby and then you give a big bowl of porridge like this, and your child is not taking it, it's not like the child doesn't want to eat. It is too much for that age at that time. So feeding them right also means that paying attention to the quantity of food their body needs at what time.
That's very interesting because parents, we are always, as you said, we are always in a hurry for our children to eat. So normally, when we give the food and then they are not finishing it, we don't think about the quantities that we are giving. We just want them to finish, to finish, to finish. That's
Yeah.
very interesting. Okay,
So
so
in
we
fact,
need to pay attention to quantities as well.
yeah. So for this at 6 months, this is how much they need. Just one, two of this at a feed at 6 months.
Okay,
That's
okay,
how their stomach capacity can take. Once you
okay.
start producing it gradually and the stomach size is getting bigger, then they are able to take more. But sometimes you find a 6 month old baby being fed this amount of food at a time, and they'll end up throwing up a lot. And then parents will feel like, oh, I'm feeding my baby. She doesn't want to take it. He doesn't want to take it. But you should pay attention to what quantity that baby need at that stage of their life.
Okay, interesting. All right, so we've talked about the eating right, what should be in it, and we have mentioned briefly the quantities. But why should children eat right? I think you said it in a certain way, but I really want you to emphasize on why children should eat right.
Okay, it is very important for children to eat right because, like I said, it's the foundation that you are giving them. It's just like I always say this, building a house. If you are building a house and it doesn't have the right foundation, you realize that later on, maybe months down the line, you find cracks in the building. At a point, it may even collapse. It's the same thing with our bodies. If you are not giving the body the right foundation, you don't expect everything to go right. And for growing children, the brain development happens from the time they are inside the mother's womb till they are about 5 years old. So if the feeding doesn't go right, we can imagine what can happen to the baby's or the child's brain, which would impair their learning ability. So I think that it is very, very important that children are fed right. Sometimes some children don't do well in class and parents punish them, they blame them for not doing right. But we have to start paying attention to what kind of nutrients is this child getting, because there are specific nutrients that are needed for the right development of the brain. So it's very important that children get the right nutrients right from the start.
How about sleep? Does the food a child eats affect their sleep?
Very much affected. So one trend that we've realized lately is that children are being fed a lot of highly processed foods. When I say highly processed food, I'm talking about the prepackaged foods, foods that you can easily find, like the ready to eat foods, that's factory made foods mostly. Some of these foods are not entirely healthy for them because once there's a lot of processing that has been done, if it is not a product that has been fortified with specific nutrients, the nutrients that the child should be getting may not be there, may be lacking. They may get the macronutrients, but the micronutrients, which are equally essential, may be lacking. So you find children taking a lot of fizzy drinks. Once a child is taking a lot of fizzy drinks, you realize that they become very hyperactive. So it becomes even difficult for them to sleep. Some of these drinks are full of caffeine, so it impairs their sleep pattern. And there are some nutrients that aid sleep, the B vitamins and then magnesium. If a child is not getting enough of these nutrients in their meals, then their sleep pattern may be impaired. So it's important that parents pay attention to some of these nutrients. You get
So if
magnesium.
my child is having trouble sleeping, what foods contain magnesium? What foods contain B vitamins that I must pay attention to?
Okay, so some of the foods that has magnesium in it are the, you have some seeds. Well, let's go to the basics, the very common ones. Something like coconut. We all know coconut, right? So coconut juice has a bit of magnesium in it. When you take something like banana, it has some magnesium in it. When you take something like cocoa, so chocolate has magnesium in it. You take something like chia seeds. I
Okay,
don't,
chia is a bit more exotic. Yeah.
yeah. But when you even take green leaves, the green leafy vegetables,
Yes, they do.
eggs, you find some magnesium in it as well. So those
Okay.
are some of the things that we should be paying attention to, including
Okay.
them in the
Okay.
child rather than the highly processed foods.
Excellent, excellent. So, what about constipation? A lot of mothers or parents worry that their children do not go to toilets often or as often as their parents would desire. And some of them, when they go to toilets, they actually, you can see them straining. Some are even in tears. Some have fissures in their bum bum, like cracks in their bum bum, because the stool is so hard and it's difficult to pass. What about that? What foods can help with constipation?
Mostly the very dry foods contribute to constipation. And then if you are magnesium deficient, you can also have constipation. So I would say the parents can look at including a lot of fluid meals in the child's meals. So, for example, soupy foods, you can prepare some smoothies with some fruits. Pawpaw does a very good job with that. The ripened pawpaw, you can blend that with some banana and a bit of milk in it, and that can easily help if your child is constipating, as well as avocado. Avocado is something that also helps, gives us some free bowel. So if your child is constipating, you can look at blending the avocado, especially for a baby who may not be able to chew on the fruit. You can blend it together with another fruit and offer it to them. That can help ease the constipation. But and of course, the child should be drinking a lot of water as well. We find that because babies cannot talk, children cannot, especially those who are under 2 years, because they can't express themselves, even when they are thirsty, they are not able to say. So parents should make a conscious effort at the beginning of the day. You can, it's easy to even calculate how much water your child should be drinking within a day based on their weight, half of their weight. So if your child is weighing, for example, 10 kg, half of their weight is 5, right? 5, um, so 500 mils, half of that, that's about 250 mils of water within a day. And then you can easily track that to see whether my child is getting that amount of water or not. So some of the things have to be consciously done to help them, because they are infants. They can't really express themselves as we adults do. That is why they need our help a lot.
Okay. So you've said the things that we should include in our children's diet so that they don't constipate. But are there particular foods that if your child is constipating, you should look at reducing or taking out of your child's diet?
Okay, so something like bread, bread, biscuits, the very dry foods. Some pastries, hard pastries. Yeah, there are some of them that can be really dry. So if the child is feeding more on these things, there are some children who like to take a lot of snacks. So if you allow them, they can go for a whole pack of biscuit crackers the whole day. just feeding on this. Some like bread a lot. If you leave them, they can go for a whole loaf of bread. So if your child is constipating and they are found of eating these meals quite often or snacking on these kind of snacks quite often, then you may want to look at it and minimize it for them or take it away.
Okay.
If they don't find it around, they will not take it, because sometimes it can be very difficult controlling them around these things. So you don't even buy it. If they don't find it around the house, then they'll be okay.
Okay. We thank those who have joined us and those who have left comments. If you have questions, please put them in the comment section and we will answer the questions for you. A couple of you have given us thumbs ups and heart emojis, and we are happy that you have joined us. Please share to your walls and tag, somebody who you think will benefit from this talk. All right. The other thing is that a lot of parents nowadays complain about the weight of their children. Personally, people reach me in my inbox day in and day out complaining about the weight. Some, of course, complain that their children are underweight, but increasingly, parents are complaining that their children are overweight or obese, and we know that overweight, obesity is related to a lot of diseases. We are seeing children with type 2 diabetes. We are seeing children even with hypertension. Well, that one is probably not caused by diet, but is affected by diet. And then children with breathing problems, asthma that you find difficult to control, children with joint problems because they are too big for their age and their sex and their height. So how about the problem of obesity or overweight? How can we use food to tackle that?
First of all, the child would have to be assessed for us to see the um, where they are at. There are different levels of obesity as well. So, for starters, we would have to assess the child and know whether they are overweight, obese, or obesity class 1, class 2, class 3. And then we would assess what the child is eating. There are certain foods that are calorie loaded, they are not nutrient loaded, but they are calorie loaded. So, if a child is feeding more on the calorie loaded meals and it is providing excess calories more than what they need, and they are not very active. These days, you don't find children playing ampy like in the past. You don't find them playing skipping. They are just either behind the computer or with their tablet playing game. They are not very active so much like 20 or 10 years ago. You would see children running around and all that. So we would have to assess the situation and find out what meals is the child being offered. And sometimes parents use food as a reward for good behavior. It's not entirely the best, because then sometimes you end up overfeeding the child. Sometimes too, children are offered junk food, what we call junk food, foods that are not providing essential
And of
nutrients.
course, if you want to reward your child and you give your child akple or banku or fufu, your child won't appreciate it much. But if you want to reward your child and you give some biscuits or chocolates, then they feel rewarded. So usually the food we are even using to reward is a problem. Not just that we are giving food, but the food that we are using to reward is also a problem. That's very interesting to note.
Yeah, so the kind of meals the child is being offered would have to be assessed to see whether the child is getting way too much more than what they should be getting. Like I showed you in the handy measures, with the handy measures, at every stage, there's a number of calories a child is expected to get in a day based on their age and their activity levels. So if we do these assessments and we find out that the child is getting way more than what they should be getting, then we'll do some adjustments. If it is, we had a case like that where the child could consume, beef foster bread. Beef foster bread is calorie loaded and, yeah, very fatty. This child could consume almost about half of it at a time. So we had to find interesting ways of replacing that with less calorie dense options for the child to still achieve, because they are growing children. You can't starve them. You
Yeah.
can't take it away from them. So you would have to find replacements that can still help achieve what you want to achieve for the child.
Yeah.
And
So you kept saying calorie dense. You've given an example, but I don't know if everybody is familiar with that example. I just think that, can you explain what calories are? And when you say something is calorie dense, then we can understand. What are calories?
thank you very much. So calories are just simply the energy that you get from food. So every food that you take, what you see in my hand now is bread, right? So every food that you take in, anything that you take in, apart from water, water is the only thing that gives you 0 calories. So everything that you consume as a person gives you some form of energy. That is what we call the calories, right? And there are certain foods that are loaded with a lot of it, depending on the ingredients that are used in preparing that particular food. A
Okay.
typical example is fatty meals. So, for example, every 1 gram of fat gives you 9 kilocalories, 1 gram of fat. So, if you are preparing your stew and you added 250 grams of fat to it, 9 times the 250, that's a lot.
Okay.
That is why when you are eating fried foods rather than the grilled one, deep fried foods rather than the grilled one, the amount of calories you find in there will be a lot compared to the food being grilled. So basically, calories, I would say, is the energy that you get from the food that you are consuming.
Now we know. Now we know what calories are. Okay. But it's very difficult. I mean, I know that you've said that we can use the handy measures to sort of have an idea how much to feed our children. But from your explanation, then it's not only about the quantity, but the quality as well. So if you are thinking to make your child a good weight, like you have said already, you cannot starve the child because the child is growing and the child needs needs energy to grow,
Yeah.
because energy is also going to contribute towards the growth of the child. So then, how do we, if I'm feeding my child, how do I wrap my head around this calorie thing? Yes, the measure is there, but this calorie thing, how do I get my brain around it?
Okay, so that's not your job to do. When
Okay.
you have an issue with your car, you take it to the mechanic to fix it, right?
Okay.
So if you want to be guided well, you should see a professional,
Okay.
because every child's caloric needs, daily calorie needs differ
Okay.
from to age. So you have to see a professional. They will sit down with you and then let you know that, okay, for what we want to achieve for your child. Currently, your child is underweight. We want the child to put on some weight. So we are giving your child maybe 1,000 calories in a day. Then it will be explained to you in terms of food and quantities. That 1,000 calories we are talking about, if the child is taking their breakfast, how much how much food should be offered? If they are taking their lunch, they are taking supper, they are having snacks in between, how much should be offered, so that at the end of the day, if we do an assessment, an overview, we will be able to say that, okay, the child has gotten the 1,000 that we wanted him or her to get. So you parents may not be able to, you can't do it easily. You have to
Okay.
see a professional to guide you.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
one of the
So just to say once again that if you have a question, put it in the comment section and then we will answer it for you. And Mami Ajwa Asabia says what we are doing is very educative. Thank you. And we hope you are sharing. And Godfred also made the same comment earlier on. But we want your questions. If there's anything about feeding your child that you don't understand or you would like Pearl to explain to you, she's ever willing. So just put it in the comment section and then she will answer it for you. Okay.
Okay, one thing I wanted to also share is that, we give children the child health record book. I don't know whether parents do go through it regularly to see. There's a lot of information in the child health record book. In fact, now it has been combined. It's mother and child health record book. So you find information about how the pregnancy should go till when the baby is out, how the child should be fed, what kind of food groups should be fed the child. It's all in the book. Now there's a section that shows growth assessment. That is why we encourage parents to take their children for child welfare clinic monthly. In fact, when they are less than a year, we encourage you to go every month to the child welfare clinic for assessment to be done. If you look at the growth charts very well, there are lines in there that indicate how well your child is growing. And so if the child is getting obese, you realize that they will go off the normal growth curve. And every child's growth curve is different. Even if the children are twins, their growth curve will be different depending on what kind of weight they came into the world with. Their growth curve will be different. So I will encourage parents who have under 5 children to pay attention to their child health record book. Even if you can't take the child every month, after a year or a year and a half, every 6 months, do well to take the child to the child welfare clinic. Their height will be measured, their weight will be measured and compared with the standards for you to know how well the child is growing. It's very important. Don't deny your child this and
And I
blame
think
them.
that I should just add that sometimes we take our children all right, but then the weight is written or the height is written and not plotted. But the book says that the height and the weight should be plotted. So you could just, if you find that happening to you, it's not usual, but sometimes it happens because of workload and all that, especially if your child is growing well and then whoever attended to you didn't think that it was a problem. So if you find that happening to you, just kindly gently prompt the healthcare worker to plot it and even to explain to you what the weight means, you see, because often because of workload, once there's no problem, then you may not get an explanation. Or sometimes, even if there's a problem, so you ask the healthcare worker to explain to you, how is my child growing? Is my child doing well today? That sort of thing. Okay, all right. So, now I'm feeling lonely because I don't have any questions coming in. And so let me just tell my viewers once again that if you have any question, you should put it in the comment section and then we will answer it for you. How about children who have certain diseases already? I think maybe we've talked about overweight. Let's talk about a child whose weight is low because of certain diseases. Most of the chronic diseases will make you have low weight. So maybe a child who has a chronic kidney disease or a child who has the heart disease. We are very familiar with hole in hearts and they are not gaining weight. How about their food? Are there particular things that we should pay attention to?
Yeah, so such children would need specialized care. Because, for example, if it were a child with, say, hole in heart or an RVI condition, they will need specialized care. So there are specific nutrients that would recommend for the mother to be getting from certain foods to be included in the child's meals. For the whole in heart children, sometimes you get some of them who are not able to even tolerate so much food at a time. This means that their feeding has to be done slowly. And then we would usually teach the mother some of the things to add to the food to make it more energy dense, meaning that the amount of energy that will be the food be provided will be providing, no matter how small it is. We'll teach the mother certain ingredients that should be included to make it more energy dense to meet the goals we want to achieve for that particular child.
Okay.
So children with special conditions also require specialized care. So
Okay.
When they are brought in like that, we have a way of seeing to them to make sure that they get back to their feet. And we've had a lot of success stories. Children who came in with nephrotic syndrome, hole in heart, renal conditions. Once their parents are willing to follow the dietary guidelines that they are given, the children make it.
Okay. Then, what about picky eaters, especially when children just learn to walk, the toddlers, those who have just started toddling? A lot of parents will complain. They will come and say, my child does not eat anything I give, my child does not eat. Or they will say, my child eats only a particular food. And sometimes when you ask of that particular food, you find that it is food that is not healthy, or it's not the food that you should eat many times a day, or so you find maybe a mother says my child doesn't eat anything, but when you take a good history, you realize that this child had juice at dawn, had juice in the morning, had juice in the mid-morning, afternoon, but it's just not eating the rice, the banku, the fufu, and the cereals that we want the child to eat. So how about those children, the picky eaters? What things should we do or pay attention to?
So for picky eaters, it's a bit tricky dealing with them, but a lot of times you find out some of the things that they like to eat. It's just that, like you said, it may not be things that are providing them with nutrients that we expect them to get for their age. It's a behavior thing. There are some of them too who react to smell from the food. So a lot of times when they come, we'll take a detailed history to try to find out what is happening both at home and then in school, if the child is a school going child. For some of the picky eaters, you find that when they are in school, they eat. When they see their peers eating, they also end up eating what they see other people eating. So we assess the situation and try to come up with interventions that help, because every case may be different. Some of the picky eaters, we encourage that parents should limit screen time when it's time for eating, eating together with them at the same time, involve them in the meal preparation, if it even means going out shopping with them, so that they themselves will pick what they want to eat. You just guide them, you tell them interesting stories about food, and then just allow them to pick whilst you shop with them, go into the market with them. They will pick what ingredients they want to bring home to prepare the food, and then involve them in the cooking process. Because they have prepared the food with you, they went shopping with you to prepare the food.
They are
Come
very
with,
excited.
they're excited, and then it sort of motivates them to eat what they themselves have helped prepare. So those are some of the little things that parents could do. Those who are just stuck with, there are some who just want to take only juice. What we encourage parents to do is, you can still give them the juice, but let's go for homemade or naturally made juice rather than the highly processed ones, because we know those ones don't offer so much essential nutrients. So even if the child wanted to have juice, let's make the juice at home. Find an interesting way of convincing them that it's the same as what, I know some mothers would even prepare the meal and put it in a pack because the child will only eat packed food. They would
Yeah.
only eat what has been brought from outside as packed food. So the mother would prepare the food all right at home and put it in a pack, making it feel like she went out to buy, just so that the child will eat.
Who
So
eats it?
parents
Yeah.
are a bit more creative around the picky eaters to
Then
help them.
I find a lot of parents saying, because I'm always talking about breastfeeding, I'm a strong advocate for breastfeeding. I find a lot of parents saying that if they exclusively breastfeed their children, then after they want when they want to introduce complementary foods, the children don't take. What do you have to say about that? Or
Thank
what
you.
can they
Thank
do?
Thank you for this question. There is no link between the way a child will eat and exclusive breastfeeding. The fact that you exclusively breastfed doesn't determine how the child will take the complementary food. The way the complementary food is introduced, how it is done, is what will determine whether the child will take it or not. Like I was explaining to you before, sometimes you find that parents are giving way more than what the child should be getting for their age. For example, a 6 month old child, we are saying, should be getting just about two of this at a meal. Now, if you offered this size of food to the child and you expect that the child should be able to eat everything before you feel like the child has eaten, then you are not being fair to the child. And then you end up saying, my child is not eating. But when we assess it from our lens, from our point of view, from our professional point of view, we realize that, okay, what the child is actually getting is way enough for their age. So there is no link between exclusive breastfeed. I hear that a lot sometimes too. I have exclusively breastfed twice, and the children are eating everything up till now. So I think it is more about how the introduction of the complementary feeds are done. Mothers rush.
For clarifying this.
They have very high hopes. They have very high expectations, forgetting that even with us adults, if I invited you to India and you are going to have to start eating their food, I'm sure it will take time for you to learn their food. So it is the same way for the babies. The child was only on breast milk. You are now introducing food to them. So parents should accept that it's a learning process for them and shouldn't be too have too much expectation. And one of the things that happens is they start comparing children. Or as soon
Yeah.
as child, or even child number one, he when I was feeding him, he took everything. You are here rejecting the food. They are two different human beings. They can never be the same. So let's be mindful. Let's take it one day at a time. See a professional for guide, and please don't force feed them. That's why I am pleading with parents that don't force feed your baby, because you may end up harming the baby than doing good. The food could go to the wrong place, and then what you don't want to happen will happen. So let's take it one day at a time. Seek help. You can get these handy measures around to guide you. Yes.
Thank you so much. So there's a question that has been here for some time. Please, what are some of the foods which are energy dense for children? So she probably wants her child to put on a bit more weight, or maybe she wants her child not to put on weight at the rate at which it is currently going. So what are some of the foods which are energy dense for children?
Okay, so we have two different situations. If it is a child who we are trying to bring down their weight, some of the energy dense foods are the pastries, like something like cake, pie, biscuits, ice cream. These are calorie dense foods. So if you are giving the child
Drinks,
a
drinks.
drinks, if you are giving the child a lot of these things, then you may want to minimize it for them. On the other hand, if it is a child whose weight you are trying to improve, then sometimes, even with the cereals you prepare for them, you can add a teaspoon or a tablespoon of vegetable oil to the food, just to increase the energy in the food. And then also you can include some snacks in between. But to be fair to the child, try and see a professional. Let assessment be done. You see, I always say that we cherish sometimes our gadgets more than our bodies. When you have an issue with your phone, you take it to the phone repairer to fix it. If you have an issue with your car, you take it to the mechanic to fix it for you. But with your body, you just want to do anything without wanting to see the right professional for help. Let's be fair to our bodies and to our children in 2023.
Thank you so much. So if you have any follow-on question, Abna, to that, you can put it in the comment section and then we will answer the question for you. How about children who have a lot of rashes, you know. I mean, rashes are different kinds anyway, because some are infections, some are allergies, some are even in infections, bacteria, fungi, they are very, very different. Some are just a result of viruses. But a child who tends to get a lot of rashes on their skin, or you think that their skin is not looking nice, are there
Yeah.
some nutrients that we should pay attention to? Because we all want our children's skin to be very smooth and nice, like the
Yeah.
way they were born babies.
Yes, very important. So if you want your child to have a very healthy looking skin, uh, not necessarily a light skin, healthy is the borderline. A
Yeah.
healthy skin, then you should be paying attention to your bright colored fruits and vegetables because they are loaded with what we call the antioxidants. So nutrients like vitamin A, vitamin E, vitamin C, those should be considered. Foods that contain a lot of these things should be considered in the child's food. For example, that's why we keep saying that you shouldn't go a day without giving your child some fruits and some vegetables because that is where we find mostly these nutrients. So all the colored, very bright colored fruits and vegetables offer you some of these nutrients. There are children who don't like vegetables at all, but there are interesting ways to get them to eat it. So if your child likes scrambled eggs, you can grate your carrots. You see how bright colored looking my carrot is. You can grate your carrot into very tiny pieces and then add it to the scrambled egg for your child. Since that is her favorite, your concentration is on the egg, but then you are adding something extra to make sure that she's getting some of these vitamins that we are talking about. If it is a child who likes eating a lot of pasta, you can, I mean, grate the vegetables into tiny bits. And then, children like to hear stories. So when you are telling them the bedtime stories, tell them interesting stories about food so that the
About
next
carrots. They'll go and dream about carrots.
and then say when you are offering the food, it makes it easier to offer it to them. Yeah, and I think
Excellent.
lately some schools are doing an excellent job of involving children in cooking processes, uh, like teaching them about food. They have school farms. I think it's very important because they have to start learning about food, how it affects their growing bodies, and then they will appreciate it better when you are offering it to them. So yeah, if you want a good looking skin for your child, then be paying attention to what they are having in terms of their fruits and vegetables intake.
Okay. And so some children eat certain foods and then they have um
Allergies.
yes. So I was looking for a more explanatory way of putting it. So they eat certain foods and then they something happens to their body that should not normally happen. You know, maybe they eat a certain food and then they get rashes on their face, or their lips are swollen, or their eyes are swollen, or they in even bad cases they may actually find it difficult to breathe. Or
Yeah.
you notice that whenever your child eats this particular food, this particular thing is happening to your child that normally doesn't happen when the child doesn't eat that food. What should you do about that?
So first of all, parents will have to be very observant. So that is why with the infants, the 6 months, when complementary food is started, we say that you should go one meal at a time. Try one new food at a time so that if there is any allergy or there is any reaction to anything in the food, you can easily find it early. But if you are giving too many things at the same time, then it becomes difficult to even identify what is causing the reaction. There are children who react to eggs so badly that I've seen a case where the child has Steven Johnson syndrome. Every part of the body became sore, their face, their mouth, everywhere. So if you offer the child anything, any new thing, and you saw a rash, any unusual change on their body, their lip is swollen, there's rash on their face, I think then you should immediately see your GP immediately, so that assessment will be done to identify what may be causing the reaction. You shouldn't wait till it becomes very bad before you seek for help. So it means that you should be paying attention to what your child is eating. In fact, if it is a child who is being fed at school, you should have an idea of the school menu, what is on the school menu. I've had the chance of reviewing the menus of certain schools, and I asked them to take certain things off and replace them with options that I felt will help the children better. So you should, ask questions. You should know what your child is being fed in school, so that if there is anything that will not help the child and it needs to be taken off, then it will be done for the child.
Okay. Talking about school, I've had a lot of parents asking me what should they offer as snack to their children, or snack for them to take to school. And it's like those are parents who have realized that perhaps every day they are giving juice in a pack and biscuits and it's not healthy, or parents who are just trying to make their children have I don't know what should a better relationship with food. What can you say about our snacks that we give to our children to take to school?
Okay, I think the snacks that are being offered to children should contribute to their nutrient needs within the day. So if it is a snack that is offering just empty calories, what when we say empty calories, it means that the food is just filling your child's stomach, it's not offering them any particular nutrients. And I'm not sure you want to keep buying anything that your child will not be benefiting from at the end of the day. So since the snacks contribute to their nutrient intake within a day, then it should be snacks that will be helpful for them. And because they will already be taking major meals already, and a lot of times you may not get the chance to offer them fruit, I think we should be paying attention more to fruits or smoothies or sandwiches, healthier options than what we have become used to. We have shifted so much to highly processed foods. That is why we are now seeing a lot of cancers which wasn't around before. We are seeing a lot of obesity around. We should start shifting back to what
So
we
my
knew.
child doesn't like fruits. When I give my child fruits, my child will come back and complain that everybody is drinking juice. What should I do about that?
Okay, so if the child doesn't want the fresh fruit, then you can offer them homemade juice that you have yourself. You can buy a juice maker, or you can even, if it is orange, you juice it yourself. You add some coconut juice to it. You add some tangerines juice to it, and it becomes like a cocktail. You put it in an interesting container. You know, children like bright colored things. They just love to play. So anything that will seemingly be like a play, a fun thing for them, they appreciate. So if it means getting an interesting bottle, maybe with her favorite cartoon designed on it, and then you make your own homemade juice and put it in it for her to take along. Why not? Because some of the pre-packed ones that we buy are even very expensive. Now the economy is, we all know how the economy is now. So if you want to keep spending so much on just the juice, which in the long run would have negative impact on their health, then I think we should rethink it. Because now research is even showing that food that contains a lot of sugar, consuming a lot of sugar, is damaging or harmful to the brain.
Sugar has never been good for any part of our body.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's linked to so many diseases, and it's even linked to the hyperactivity. The children don't want to sit down. They are just they've
Liver,
become They are just going up and down, running, not going up and down. Going up and down is good, but they are overdoing it. We want them to run. Yes, children are made to run, to walk around, to be active, but it makes them hyperactive. You know, there's a time they should sit still for a certain number of minutes according to their age. They won't be able to do that. And sugar, mostly the foods that contain a lot of sugar will make the children put on a lot of weight. Then they put on weight, then they find it difficult to walk, then they sit further and eat more sugar, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle. Their brain is affected, they may get type 2 diabetes and all these breathing problems from overweight. So sugar has never been good. So I always say that, I mean, you should find replacement, and you have said it on this show as well. You should find replacements for sugar in your child's diet. In fact, your children are not supposed to have added sugar to their food until they are 2 years old, or some people stretch it to 18 months. But the young ones, you're not supposed to be adding sugar, just sugar to their meals. It should be something that gives them a lot more nutrition than sugar does. So that's also something that we should bear in mind. So all too soon, our time is drawing to a close, and I just like to say that if you have any questions, please put them in the comment section. If you are going to watch this on replay, which means that the show has ended, but you are watching, you can still ask questions and we will answer them. Today, we felt very lonely actually because there haven't been a lot of questions coming. I don't know what is happening in 2023. So you can still put your questions there and we will answer them for you. If you would like Pearl to help you with any question that is related to your child, she's on Facebook as Pearl Salome, but after this is over, I'll put her contact in the comment section and you can just send her a message. And most of these things that we talk about have also been made into short videos, not as detailed as we have done here. But if you just want a quick answer to a question, my channel is Baby Child and Co on YouTube, so you can go to Baby Child and Co and you will find a lot of helpful information to help you to care for your child as well. And there as well, you can pop your questions and then you get reliable answers to those questions. I just realized when we started, I did not introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Dr. Sarah Mori. I'm a pediatrician, regularly at Spolebu Teaching Hospital, but has been in Cape Town for a while, still learning because learning never ends. And I have done this today with the support of Mrs. Pearl Salome, a very good friend, dietitian, nutritionist, who has all the answers to your questions. And that is why I keep saying that you should put your questions in the comment section. So thank you, Pearl, and thank you all those who have joined us, and thank you all those who have commended us. And we hope that this has been very educative and explanatory for you, and we will see you the next time. And please follow and like Baby Child and Co so that when we have programs, it will pop up on your news feed, on your Facebook wall, and then you will get to know. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.